Hi everyone, and happy Halloween if you are watching this the day I uploaded it. If not, it's never a bad time for a happy Halloween. Today I am going to be doing my October wrap-up. I read 6 books in October, which I'm pretty happy with considering how busy I was this month, and most of the books I read were like Halloween-y, thrillers, horrors, that kind of thing, but a couple of them weren't. The first book that I picked up was A Walk to Remember by Nicholas Sparks. This is not the sort of story I would pick up for many reasons. I'm not a big romance person in general, and I really don't like sappy stories or ones that are written to make you sad and cry at the end, and that is what this book is. I'm not really going to explain a synopsis because I feel like I'm the last person in the world to either read this book or watch the film, so I feel like most people kind of know what it's about. All I'm gonna say is I was very apprehensive going into it for all of the reasons that I just mentioned, and of course, right at the end, it ripped my heart out, made me bawl my eyes out, which I am not really a crier when it comes to books, and especially hysterically sobbing, but that is what happened with this book, so I ended up giving it, honestly, I think I gave it 5 stars. It's very shocking for me. Not sure what else to say about it. The next book I read was an ebook called The Perfect Nanny. This is a domestic thriller. I ended up rating this book 1.5 stars. I don't really know how to explain it to you. We basically follow a couple, a husband and wife, and they have 2 kids, and they decide to hire a nanny. And the woman they hire, they think is the perfect nanny, and all of their problems are solved, and all of their problems are not solved. With this book, I feel like the concept of it was really good. It just wasn't executed very well. It was written in a way where it just didn't feel very suspenseful at all, and the prologue to the story, I guess, was basically the end of the story, and while sometimes that kind of format of it works really well where you see kind of the aftermath but you don't know who did it, with this one you pretty much know who did it and you know throughout the entire story, so when the ending happens it's not particularly shocking, so that's why I give it 1.5 stars. It wasn't very thrilling in any way, and I just don't think it was executed very well. Then I picked up Caravel and Legendary by Stephanie Garber. These are the first and second book in the Caravel, I think is what it's called, trilogy. So if you don't know what Caravel is about, we basically follow a girl called Scarlett, and her sister Tella have always wanted to go to Caravel, which is basically a traveling carnival type of game. You can either choose to participate or be a spectator, and you are given these clues and then it leads you to some kind of grand prize if you win. But the game is invite only, and finally Scarlett and Tella get an invite to go to this game. When they get there, Tella ends up being kidnapped by the mastermind behind Caravel, and so Scarlett has to participate in the game to try and get her sister back. I really enjoyed this book, and I ended up giving it a full 5 out of 5 stars. I just loved the world. The atmosphere was amazing, which is obviously due to the great writing, and I really connected with all of the characters. Definitely have a new OTP in this book. And yeah, overall I just loved this story. So of course I immediately picked up the sequel, Legendary, which I gave 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed this book as well, but I don't think I connected with the main character of this one as much. So in this book we do follow a different character from the first one. The main character in this one was a side character in Caravel, so it's not a new character, but it's different from the first one, and I just don't think I connected with her as much as Scarlett in Caravel, and I just don't think I was as invested in this storyline as much as the first one, but I still really enjoyed both of them and I would highly recommend them, and I'm very much looking forward to the final book in the trilogy. Then I picked up Horror Store by Grady Hendrix. This is an adult horror novel that is set up like an Ikea magazine, and it is set in a store that is basically Ikea. So in this book we follow one of the store's employees, and they have noticed that some strange things have been going on in the store where they leave at night and everything's fine, and they come back the next day and the furniture is kind of messed up and there's just some weird stuff going on. So the main character, Amy, who we follow, and a couple of other employees decide to spend the night there and see if they can catch whoever is doing this, and it ends up being a lot more sinister than they thought it was going to be. I'm pretty sure this book has been popular on BookTube since I started my channel, and so that is how long, almost 3 years now, that I've wanted to read this book. It was definitely very hyped up for me, and so I think maybe my expectations were a little bit too high because I didn't enjoy this book as much as I thought I was going to. I did give it 3.5 stars, so don't get me wrong, I still really enjoyed it. I think it was very unique and how it's written. At the beginning of each chapter there is like a furniture item and it just tells you like little things about it, and then usually whatever furniture piece it is going to like play a prominent role in that chapter. I also think it was really cool how it was set in a department store, because department stores are very creepy at night when everyone goes home and it's just all empty. It's a very creepy setting, and I definitely could feel that in this story, but about halfway through it just kind of lost it for me, and it might be a personal preference thing. I've never been the biggest fan of horror stories where the antagonist is like supernatural rather than like an actual person. I don't mind when it has like some paranormal elements to it, but when it goes too heavy into the supernatural I don't tend to like it as much. So that definitely could have been more of a personal preference thing, but overall I do think this book was a little bit overhyped for what it actually is. So yeah. And then the final book that I read in October was The Silver Eyes. This is the first book in a Five Nights at Freddy's series. I think so far it's a trilogy. I don't know if they're writing any more books. If you don't know what Five Nights at Freddy's is, basically it started off as a video game and then they adapted it into some books. So the video game, it's set in this pizzeria called Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, which is kind of like Chuck E. Cheese, and they have these animatronic animal mascots. So in this book we follow a girl called Charlie, and her dad owned the pizzeria and he made all of the animatronics. The pizzeria is now completely abandoned because 5 years previous to the book taking place we learn that one of Charlie's friends and a couple of other kids were murdered at this place. So Charlie had moved away and now she is returning back to the town with some of her other friends that used to go there, and they end up returning to this abandoned pizzeria and they find the animatronics are still lurking there. So I end up giving this book 4 stars. This is definitely one of those stories where if you're not already familiar with the video game, you're probably not going to like it as much. I definitely kind of judged it by it being like adapted from a video game. I thought it would just be like really dumb and cheesy, but it was surprisingly really good. Like the characters in here I definitely connected to, and I actually really cared for them when anything bad happened to them. And it was a very creepy story and setting. Like, I don't know about y'all, but I'm very freaked out by animatronics, so I totally get this. And by no means was this like a badly written book at all. I definitely judged it by being adapted from a video game, but it's definitely a very good story. The only reason I didn't give it a full 5 stars was because it didn't like completely blow my mind, although it was a very good story, and obviously 4 stars is a very good rating. It wasn't like my all-time favorite story, but I am definitely interested in picking up the sequels. So yeah, those are all of the books that I read in October. Leave me a comment down below and let me know what your favorite book was that you read in October. If you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!